I've decided to purchase the luxury car from you, Tiffany. Honestly, an ordinary person like me doesn't need such extravagance, but my parents have been thinking about getting a new car, and it might be just the right fit for them. Since marrying Peter, I've noticed a change in him. He's become more self-centered, even coveting the upscale car my parents gifted to me. Frankly, I've had enough. My name is Tiffany, I'm 28 years old, and I met Peter during our college days. We've been married for 3 years now. Peter is the social butterfly, well-liked by everyone, which is quite the opposite of me. I'm more introverted and have only a handful of close friends. Our relationship started unexpectedly. At first, we bonded over shared courses and study sessions. His interest in me caught me off guard, but when he asked me out, I was so overjoyed that I didn't hesitate to say yes. That was the beginning of our relationship. What drew me to Peter was his charm, his easygoing nature, and his dedication to his studies. He had plenty of friends, many of them attractive and stylish women, so it never felt like he'd struggle to find another girlfriend if he wanted to. In fact, I once asked him nervously if he truly thought I was the right one for him. His reaction was puzzling. He seemed surprised and asked why I'd even asked something like that. I confessed that I often felt insecure and just wanted to understand what made him choose me. After a moment of thought, he simply said that he felt comfortable with me. It wasn't the heartfelt response I had hoped for, and before I could say more, he grew distant, distracted by his phone. Not wanting to start an argument, I dropped the subject and apologized for bringing it up. But the doubts lingered. As time went on, our relationship moved forward smoothly. On the surface, at least. We graduated, got married, and settled into a condo. I found a stable job at a company while Peter continued his graduate studies and part-time work. When I told my mom about our engagement, she was thrilled, though she admitted she and my dad were beginning to worry about when I'd finally introduce a boyfriend. I felt a little guilty for not telling them about Peter sooner, but my mom, understanding my independent nature, was simply happy knowing I had someone in my life who cared about me. My parents have always been my role models. They met in college, just like Peter and me, and have maintained a deep love and respect for each other throughout the years. My dad worked his way up the corporate ladder, while my mom pursued her passion for cooking, eventually teaching culinary classes. They always respected each other's independence and supported each other's dreams, and I hope to create a marriage like theirs. Despite growing up in a well-off family, I've always valued independence. That's why I didn't pursue graduate school like Peter. I wanted to stand on my own and build my own life. My dream has always been simple: to have a family like the one I grew up in, with a strong marriage and perhaps children someday. It may sound straightforward, but for someone like me, it's a significant goal. After Peter and I moved in together, things started to change. Peter was still in graduate school and working part-time, but he didn't contribute much financially. When I gently brought it up, suggesting it would help if he used more of his income for our expenses, he brushed it off, saying, "I do contribute, you know. Didn't you say you'd take care of the living expenses when we moved in together, Tiffany?" His words made me uneasy. Peter had always dreamed of becoming a professor, and that's why he was so focused on his graduate studies. But while he chased his ambitions, I was left feeling like I was carrying most of the financial burden alone. I had reassured Peter not to worry about finances, given my stable job, but when he shot back at me, I could only mumble a weak agreement, unsure of how to respond. Peter let out a heavy sigh. "You wouldn't understand, Tiffany. Being a graduate student is expensive." He paused before adding, "Besides, socializing is part of it too." Then, as if it were an afterthought, he said, "Oh, and I need $1,000 for a research trip. Can you lend it to me? I'll pay you back later." Requests like these became more frequent, and the strain on our relationship grew. He started spending more nights away, leaving me alone with cold, untouched meals and unanswered phone calls. When he finally returned, often in good spirits, I found myself too forgiving. Out of the blue, he'd suggest, "Hey Tiffany, remember you wanted to go somewhere? I have tomorrow off. Let's go." Or he'd compliment my cooking, making me feel momentarily appreciated. Every time Peter showed kindness, I caught glimpses of the happy marriage I longed for. It made me hesitate to confront the deeper issues, even though, deep down, I knew something was wrong. I felt increasingly lonely and anxious, trapped in a cycle of brief moments of joy followed by prolonged periods of solitude. I found myself unable to share these struggles with anyone, especially my parents, who were genuinely thrilled about our marriage. Even so, they must have sensed that something was off. I hadn't visited them in a while, and when I finally did, my dad suggested I stay for dinner. My mom prepared an elaborate meal to welcome me, and during the meal, my dad mentioned that Aunt Lori had recently visited. She wanted to see me, he said, describing her as spontaneous, ambitious, and fiercely independent, the same traits that had always defined her. I'll reach out to her soon, thanks, Dad, I replied, appreciating their subtle way of encouraging me to reconnect with family. As my dad reminisced about how much Aunt Lori cared for me, he smiled, recalling how she'd playfully teased that Peter had stolen me away, even though she had never intended to marry herself. Before I met Peter, Lori had been more of a confidant than an aunt. I could talk to her about things I couldn't discuss with my parents. She understood me on a deeper level and had always been there to support me, especially in the beginning. I had always been too timid to discuss my relationship with Peter, especially with Lori. But now I felt eager to reconnect. A few days after visiting my parents, I met Lori at a cafe. She was as stylish as ever. As she looked over my outfit, she offered gentle advice. You know, Tiffany, marriage is just the beginning of a lifelong journey for a woman. You should always feel confident and attractive, no matter what. Your clothes can make a big difference, so don't forget to take care of yourself. With a graceful smile, she took a sip of her tea. Realizing how much I had neglected my own interests, I apologized for not keeping in touch. Lori chuckled and said, "That's so typical of you, Tiffany. It's good to be honest and serious, but being too timid often comes from a lack of experience. Still, I was thrilled when I heard you found someone special." I thought, finally, Tiffany is taking a step forward. It had been ages since I spent time with someone on a day off, and the weather was perfect, making our outing even more refreshing. We settled on the terrace, basking in the warm sunlight. In that tranquil moment, I felt comfortable enough to share my concerns with Lori. At first, I had believed that even someone as reserved as I could make a relationship work with Peter. But lately, doubts had been creeping in. Lori listened attentively, nodding empathetically without interrupting. When I finished, she asked softly, "I suppose you haven't mentioned any of this to your parents, have you, Tiffany?" "No," I admitted. "I even hesitated to tell you today. I didn't want to reveal my vulnerabilities to anyone. I thought I should be able to handle this on my own to prove that I can be truly independent. If Mom and Dad found out, they'd probably want me to move back home right away. I want to try and handle this by myself as much as I can." Lori respected my decision, not pushing the matter further. But she gently assured me, "If you ever need help, let me know first. If my dear Tiffany asks, I'll be there for you, no matter where I am." A month later, my mom called me casually. "When you have time, could you come over? It's nothing urgent." Since I had the next day off, I decided to visit my parents. As I pulled up to my parents' house, I noticed a new car parked in the driveway. Excitement bubbled up inside me. "Dad, is this car new? Did you just get it? Can I take it for a spin?" I joked, my enthusiasm evident as I admired the sleek vehicle. "Don't worry about that," Dad said, smiling warmly. "This car is for you, Tiffany. Use it however you like. It'll come in handy." Mom added softly, "We saw this car in a TV commercial and remembered you said you liked it. So, it's our gift to you. You've been having a tough time lately, and we wanted to cheer you up. If things get rough, just drive this and come home anytime." The SUV, from a renowned international brand, was a thoughtful gesture that filled me with a deep sense of support and freedom. Dad had even arranged a parking spot near my condo for the new SUV. Overwhelmed, I laughed in disbelief, struggling to comprehend the generosity of their gift. Later, as I drove downtown, I reached into my pocket, retrieved the car key, and pressed the button. The SUV's lights flashed brightly around me. It was then that I heard a familiar voice from behind. "What's with the new car?" Peter asked. I turned to see my husband, who hadn't been home for what felt like an eternity. His presence left me momentarily speechless. He looked at the car with a smug grin. "Ah, I see. A gift from your parents?" Every time I faced Peter, I struggled to find my voice, but I was tired of feeling diminished. "Peter, don't you care anymore? Do you even care about me?" I managed to ask, summoning my courage. Peter's response was a bombshell. "Are you just realizing this now? Did you think I loved you all this time? It's ridiculous how hopeful you are." His mocking laughter echoed in my ears. Something inside me snapped. "Then why did you marry me?" I retorted louder than usual. Peter's cold reply was shocking. "Wow, you're going to be that blunt about it. So marrying me was just a means to an end for you, huh? And now you want the car too. It's wasted on you." I couldn't believe the harshness of his words. Peter remained unfazed by the pain he caused. With chilling indifference, he added, "You know, we're getting a divorce. Without me, you'll never find another man. Think about it." With those cruel words, Peter left without a second glance, leaving me feeling both angry and heartbroken. My head pounded with a headache as I sat in the driver's seat, trying to calm myself. Eventually, I reached out to Aunt Lori for advice after a few days of reflecting on the situation. I agreed to the divorce and moved back in with my parents. They welcomed me with open arms, and for a while, life felt peaceful again. However, that peace was short-lived. One afternoon, Peter showed up at my parents' house, accompanied by his parents. They all settled into the living room, and Peter's father spoke in a stern tone. "We're here to discuss our son's divorce," he began. As the conversation about the divorce unfolded, I took a firm stand. "If you don't agree to the divorce," I warned Peter, "I'll use my parents' connections at the university to jeopardize your future. It wouldn't be hard to damage the career of a junior registrar if their daughter files a complaint." Peter, who genuinely cared for me, was taken aback by my approach. He felt my tactics were aggressive and intimidating, as if I was trying to force his hand. His father argued vehemently. "We could easily contest the divorce," he said. "Tiffany, beneath her simple appearance, is manipulative and greedy. Poor Peter. I heard she even paid him to stay away. She must have entertained other men. We should take this to family court and claim Peter was coerced into this divorce. But if Tiffany were to make a genuine apology, maybe things could be different. For instance, if she gave up the car she's been driving, it might help smooth things over." Peter and his parents listened silently, absorbing his father's protests. Just then, the doorbell rang, and my mom answered it. Aunt Lori walked in, appearing behind her. "Sorry I'm late," Lori said, joining the discussion. "How's it going?" Peter's family, who had met Lori only once at my wedding, was taken aback. "What are you doing here?" Peter's mother objected. "It's rude to barge in like this. We're in the middle of something." Lori remained unfazed. "You've heard about Peter's divorce, haven't you? How would an outsider like you know about this?" Peter's mother challenged. Lori continued, "I was informed by my brother earlier. I couldn't miss such an important moment for my dear niece." Peter's mother retorted, "You're probably here to stop the divorce or for money. Are you still going to make accusations after seeing this?" Without missing a beat, Lori pulled out a stack of documents from her bag and laid them out on the table for everyone to see. "I hired a private detective to look into this," she revealed. "It turns out Peter has been cheating on Tiffany with multiple women. He hardly came home because of it, taking advantage of Tiffany's kindness and even asking her for money." The revelation left everyone in stunned silence, and the tone of the meeting shifted dramatically as everyone processed the gravity of Lori's findings. I was deeply immersed in my university research, so when I did make it home, we spent time together sharing meals and going on trips. To the outside world, we appeared like any other married couple. "Say something, Tiffany," Peter pleaded, his voice tinged with desperation. "You don't need to defend yourself," his father quickly reassured him. "We'll handle this. It's not your fault." "That's right," Peter's mother added. "These documents from who knows where surely fabricated. Our Peter would never engage in such acts. He's a kind, outstanding son." "Kind to his parents, maybe," Aunt Lori interjected sharply. "But it seems his kindness doesn't extend beyond that." Beneath her calm demeanor, Aunt Lori was resolute. She pulled out a photograph from the stack of documents. "I was at a hotel for a business meeting recently and saw William there with another woman, looking quite cozy. I had the detective look into William as well, and the results were just as I suspected. Do you understand now?" Peter's mother's face went pale as she grabbed the documents and examined them closely. "What is this? William, how long has this been going on? It's all lies, isn't it?" "Kayla, stop looking," William said, trying to snatch the documents from her, but it was too late. Kayla, visibly distraught, confronted William. "You've been cheating on me. The car you wanted so badly was for her, wasn't it?" No matter how much William tried to calm her down, Kayla was inconsolable. She stormed out of the house, tears streaming down her face, with William trailing behind her, desperately trying to explain. In the ensuing chaos, Peter blurted out, "Hey, wait. What about me?" He followed them out, equally confused. The rest of us were left in stunned silence, but Aunt Lori wore a satisfied smile, giving me a knowing wink. It was clear she had anticipated the dramatic turn of events and the revelations that needed to come to light. After the tumultuous events, Aunt Lori shared with me that Peter's parents had eventually divorced. "You won't fall for such a terrible man again," she assured me. "Let's make you even more attractive. I'll teach you everything about grooming and self-care." Despite her busy schedule, Aunt Lori frequently visited, taking me out for meals and shopping trips. During this time, I absorbed a great deal from her, gaining a new perspective on self-care and confidence. A year after the divorce, I made a pivotal decision to attend graduate school. I dedicated myself to my studies and personal development, a period of transformation for me. One day, while at a street intersection, I heard someone call my name. Turning around, I found Peter standing there. "It's been a while. You've changed a lot," he remarked with a hint of surprise in his tone. I barely recognized him at first. To Peter, the woman he once knew as his plain ex-wife had evolved into someone stunningly beautiful and confident. Meanwhile, Peter's life had taken a downturn. Following his parents' public divorce scandal, he had dropped out of graduate school. With his parents, William and Kayla, cutting off financial support due to the chaos he had caused, Peter struggled to pay for tuition and living expenses. The carefree life he once enjoyed was a distant memory. The women who had once shown interest in him had drifted away, and his former glory had vanished almost overnight. As Peter was about to suggest catching up, a man approached us. "Sorry for the wait. Are you a friend of Tiffany's?" he asked. It was Kevin, the man I had recently started seeing. Kevin's arrival was perfectly timed, underscoring the new chapter of my life that Peter was no longer a part of. Nearby, a group of women couldn't help but admire Kevin. "Wow, that guy is handsome. Is he a model?" they commented. Kevin, noticing my brief interaction with Peter, gave him a nod. "He's from my past. It's okay, we're done talking." "Let's go," Kevin said, taking my hand. Peter stood there, stunned, as Kevin confidently led me away. Without giving Peter another thought, Kevin and I walked towards the crosswalk. I kept my gaze straight ahead, focused on the path in front of us and the future that awaited. I didn't look back even once as we left.